I didn't clap back when he mocked me. I just hired him later. I used to believe that if you kept your head down and worked hard, people would eventually respect you. Turns out, some people only learn respect when you hold the pen that signs their paycheck. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me take you back to the beginning, to the moment that made everything snap into place. The moment I stopped being the family embarrassment and became the man my brother never saw coming. My name's Michael Grant, 34, quiet by nature. Grew up in a blue-collar family just outside Chicago, in a neighborhood where people still believe showing emotion is weakness and having a college degree makes you a snob. I was the quiet one, always reading, tinkering, dreaming in code. My older brother Brian, the golden child, loud, charismatic, homecoming king turned frat guy turned mid-level account manager who thinks a Patagonia vest makes him a CEO. We were never close. But back then, I still wanted his approval. I didn't realize just how little he thought of me until that brunch. It was my mom's idea. Before we go further, don't forget to like this story, hit subscribe, and tap the bell so you don't miss what happens next. A family brunch to celebrate Brian's promotion, something about leading a new client division at the agency he worked for. He called it a huge career leap. Same cubicle, different title. But sure, I showed up because my mom asked me to. Even though I was already drowning, recently laid off, burning through savings, trying to bootstrap a software prototype, I didn't have the heart to pitch yet. We met at a trendy little bistro in Logan Square. The kind of place where the menus are printed on recycled paper and everyone pretends a $16 mimosa is normal. Brian walked in late, wearing sunglasses indoors and a watch big enough to track satellites. The first thing he said to me? Didn't think you'd be able to afford this place. Everyone laughed. Everyone except me. I should have walked out. But I didn't. Because I was raised to be polite. To let people like Brian talk. To not make a scene. So I stayed. And listened as he held court at the table like a politician at a press conference. He told stories about his team, the 2 interns he constantly took credit for. About his mentor, a regional director who couldn't remember his name. Then he turned to me. So, Mikey, still playing around with that little tech thing of yours? My stomach tightened. It's not a little thing, I said quietly. I'm building a product. A real one. Custom systems integrations for mid-sized businesses. He sipped his mimosa, barely listening. Right. You're a founder now, he said with air quotes. Still no job, though? The table got quiet. And that's when he landed the real hit. Mom, maybe we should pass a hat around. Help Mikey pay for his eggs. The laughter this time wasn't polite. It was real. My mother gave a nervous chuckle. My dad cleared his throat and focused on his coffee. I didn't say a word, but something inside me broke. Not the kind of break that makes you crumble. The kind that makes you change. That night, I went home and opened my laptop. I stared at the product I'd been building for months, a cloud-based inventory and operations tracker designed for overworked small business teams. Something I designed after watching too many good companies struggle to scale because their systems were outdated or patched together with duct tape. I had been afraid to launch it. Afraid of failure. Afraid of attention. Afraid that maybe Brian was right. Maybe it was just a little tech thing. But that night, I stopped being afraid. I launched it. I called it Corelight Systems. The first 6 months were brutal. Cold emails. Empty pitches. Rejections. I lived off instant noodles and leftover pride. But then came the break. A client in St. Louis, a manufacturing company that had just fired their old tech vendor, said yes. Then another in Minneapolis. Then a chain of bakeries in Colorado that needed everything from POS tracking to ingredient forecasting. Within 9 months, we were in the black. Within 18, I had 5 full-time engineers and a part-time CFO. By the 2-year mark, Corelight Systems had expanded into regional logistics. We weren't flashy. We weren't VC-backed. But we were profitable. And I owned 82% of the company. I never told my family. Not because I wanted to hide it, but because by then, I didn't care if they knew. Until something strange happened. One of our new HR contractors, a guy we hired through a third-party recruiter, submitted paperwork late. I looked through the file to verify credentials. And that's when I saw it. Brian Grant, my brother, applying for a new job. At my company. I sat there for a solid 5 minutes, just staring at the screen. Brian Grant, applying for a mid-level business development role at Corelight Systems, my company. My first reaction wasn't anger. It was disbelief. He didn't even recognize the name. Didn't connect it to me. Didn't think twice. That's how far I'd been off his radar all these years. That's how little he paid attention. And maybe that was the moment it truly clicked for me, how much my brother had never actually seen me. Not really. I clicked through his resume, scanning for lies. There were a few, of course. Led cross-functional teams. Strategized end-to-end marketing rollouts. Instrumental in securing $2.4 million in new contracts. I knew better. Half those contracts had been inherited. The rest? Group projects where he just happened to be CC'd on the emails. He was slick. Always had been. He could sell a pitch like a politician, as long as no one asked too many follow-up questions. And now he was trying to sell me. He had no clue. Our hiring manager had already flagged the resume as neutral fit, but was considering him for a second-round phone interview. I didn't step in right away. I wanted to see how this would play out. How my brother, the same man who mocked me in front of our family for not having a job, would approach this mystery startup he clearly hadn't researched. Would he fake knowledge? Lie his way through? Or would he flounder? The phone screen was scheduled for Thursday. I asked our recruiter to record it, something we did routinely for training and review. What I heard was classic Brian. Smooth, polished, surface-deep charm. I've always been passionate about helping small businesses grow. I think your mission at CoreLight aligns perfectly with my skill set. I thrive in fast-paced environments. Startups don't scare me, they excite me. Honestly, I feel like this role was written for me. God, the arrogance. But he still hadn't connected any dots. No mention of me. No recognition. That stung in a way I didn't expect. Because deep down, I think part of me still hoped that one day, Brian would look at me and say, "I'm proud of you." Instead, he didn't even know I existed in the company he was trying to join. That night, I found myself walking through downtown Chicago alone, hands in my coat pockets, thinking about every moment I'd ever let slide. The way he used to jokingly call me loser when we were teens. How he once threw out one of my science fair trophies and said it was just new junk. The brunch where he told our mom that maybe I was just too soft for the real world. It was all coming back, not with anger, but with clarity. I wasn't just the sibling he didn't understand. I was the one he actively dismissed. Because people like Brian, they don't like being reminded that success can look different. They don't respect what they can't control. Friday morning, HR emailed me. We're considering moving forward with Brian G. for a video panel interview next week. Want to weigh in? I stared at the message for a minute, then typed, "Move forward. But I'd like to sit in on this one." They said yes, no questions asked. The call was scheduled for Tuesday at 10 a.m. Brian would be joining a panel of 3, our recruiter, our director of sales, and me. I didn't plan to turn on my camera right away. I wanted to hear his voice, hear how he presented himself when he didn't think anyone in the room knew the truth. At 9:58, I logged in, muted, camera off. He joined at 10:01, hair slicked, button-up shirt, that same performative smirk I'd seen for years. He greeted the team with confidence, threw out a rehearsed joke about needing more coffee, and even complimented someone's Zoom background. The interview began. He was good, I'll give him that. Just polished enough to sound competent, just vague enough to avoid real depth. But then came the moment. Our recruiter said, "We're joined today by Michael Grant. He's one of our founders. He'll be sitting in on this call to get a sense of cultural alignment." Brian's face shifted. Just a fraction. A blink. But I saw it. Then he smiled and said, "Oh, that's funny. My brother's name is Michael Grant too." The recruiter smiled. "Really? What are the odds?" I unmuted, turned my camera on, and said, calmly, "What are the odds?" His jaw actually dropped. He stared at the screen like it couldn't be real. "Wait, what? You work here? I built here." I let that sit. He fumbled, tried to laugh. "No way. This is your company." Surprised. He blinked. Yeah, I guess. I mean, well, I leaned in slightly. "You once said I was jobless. Now you're applying for one. Here." The silence was thick. The rest of the interview was awkward. He tried to recover, but the shine was gone. Every word sounded forced. The confidence? Gone. He knew. He knew he'd walked into the wrong room with the wrong story, and now the person he thought was beneath him owned the table. When the call ended, I didn't say anything else. Didn't need to. I just nodded, logged off, and let the silence say everything. The hiring team asked if we should proceed. I told them to treat his application like any other. No revenge. No favoritism. Just truth. Let his work, or lack of it, speak for itself. But I knew one thing for certain, for the first time in his life. Brian was finally seeing me. My phone rang just after 9 p.m. No voicemail. No text. Just a missed call from a number I hadn't seen in months but still knew by heart. Brian. For a moment, I didn't move. I just sat there on my couch, watching the screen blink his name, feeling a wave of something old and familiar crawl up my spine. Not fear. Not exactly anger either. More like Disappointment layered over history. The kind that takes years to build and seconds to feel again. I let it go to voicemail. And then curiosity got the better of me. I pressed play. Hey, Mikey. I guess it's Michael now, huh? I didn't know you were behind Corelight. That was wild. Look, I didn't mean anything by what I said at brunch. I was just messing around. You know how we joke. Anyway, call me back. We should talk. I sat in silence, staring out my window at the city lights below. He still didn't get it. Still didn't hear himself. Still thought this was about a joke. Back at that brunch, it wasn't just the words he said, it was what they meant. It was years of brushing me off, undermining me, making me feel like I was always 5 steps behind no matter how far ahead I actually was. He never saw me as a peer. Never as an equal. And now, confronted with undeniable proof that I had built something, that I was something, all he could say was, I was just messing around. I didn't call back. Not that night. Not the next. But the calls kept coming. 2 more the next day. 1 after midnight. Then a text. We should grab lunch. Just us. I didn't respond. Instead, I sat down and wrote myself a letter. Not to send. Just to feel. Dear Michael, this is the version of you that's done explaining himself. This is the version of you that doesn't need your brother to validate what you've built. This is the version that remembers every time you were told to be quiet, be less, be realistic, and still chose to keep going. You're not here to gloat. You're not here to get even. You're here because you earned your seat. Full stop. That night, I slept better than I had in weeks. But the universe wasn't done yet. Because 3 days later, HR sent me a new email. Hey Michael, just FYI, Brian G. submitted a revised application this morning with an updated cover letter and requested to be reconsidered for a client-facing role. He also mentioned you by name. Want us to ignore it? I opened the attachment. This time, his tone had changed. My brother, Michael, is one of the most disciplined people I know. I didn't always understand his path, but seeing what he's built has inspired me. I want to be part of it. I think I can contribute. I hope you'll consider me. And for a moment, I actually froze. Because for the first time in his life, he wasn't making fun of me. He wasn't trying to win. He was asking. But here's the thing about people like Brian. They don't ask unless they think there's something to gain. This wasn't an olive branch. It was a strategy. I forwarded the email to Jordan, my co-founder. Flagged, he wrote back. No decision yet. Later that afternoon, my mom called. She hadn't reached out in months. Not since the brunch, actually. Hey honey, she said. I heard you and Brian had a meeting or something? I almost laughed. Of course he went to her. It wasn't a meeting, Mom. It was an interview. He applied for a job at my company. Your company, she said slowly. You never said. No one asked. She went quiet. Then, softly, he told me he didn't know. That he feels embarrassed. Does he? He said you were cold. That you're holding a grudge. I closed my eyes. I'm not holding anything, Mom. I just stopped playing the same game. She sighed. Family's complicated. Not really, I said. It's only complicated when one person's doing all the giving and the other one's taking credit. She didn't argue. She just said, I hope you two can talk. And I said nothing. Because sometimes silence says more than any speech could. That night, I opened up a file I hadn't touched in months. A journal entry from when I first started Corelight. In it, I had written, someday, I want to build something so solid that even the people who doubted me will stand on it without realizing who poured the foundation. And now, that day had come. I didn't text Brian right away. I let a few more days pass. Let the silence stretch just long enough that he'd start questioning his own narrative. He was used to me bending, caving, shrinking into the quiet younger brother who'd nod and agree and laugh at his half-hearted jokes. But now, I was done shrinking. I finally sent the text on a Thursday afternoon. Let's talk. Sunday, 11 a.m., Kinfolk Cafe. You know the one. He replied within minutes. Absolutely. See you there. Kinfolk Cafe was one of those minimalist, wood-in metal, overpriced places near the lake. The kind of place you meet clients or run into tech bros reading startup manifestos over matcha lattes. I got there early and grabbed a seat near the back window. I didn't bring my laptop. Didn't even bring a notebook. Just a plain black coffee and the quiet confidence that came from knowing this was my moment. Not revenge. Just truth. At 11:06, Brian walked in. Wearing that same button-down he wore to our mom's birthday last year. Sunglasses tucked into the collar. Fresh haircut. Fake calm. He looked around, spotted me, and smiled like nothing had ever happened. Mike, he said, sitting down across from me like we were old friends catching up. Thanks for agreeing to meet. I nodded once. Sure. A few seconds of silence passed. He fidgeted with his watch. So, he said, I guess we should just get into it? I sipped my coffee. You mean the part where you tried to get a job at my company without realizing I was your boss? His smile cracked just a little. I didn't know. Honest. I didn't even realize the company was yours until I saw your face in the interview. Because you didn't think I was capable of building something worth knowing. That's not fair, he said quickly. It's exactly fair, I said, sharper now. Brian, do you know what you said to me the last time we were in a room together? He went quiet. You made a joke about passing the hat around to help me afford brunch. You said it in front of our mother. Our father. Like I was some punchline. I was kidding. You weren't. You never were. He sat back, arms crossed. Defensive now. Look, he said. We've always joked around. That's just how we are. No, I said. That's how you are. I spent most of my life being the person you joked about. Not with. About. He looked down at his coffee, quiet. I leaned in slightly. Do you even remember the science fair project I won in 7th grade? The one Mom had to drive me to the state competition for. He shrugged. Not really. Of course you don't. Because you were too busy calling it a dork contest and telling everyone I was building a robot to make friends. His face paled. I kept going. I remember every time you laughed at my hobbies. Every time you rolled your eyes when I talked about starting my own thing. You thought I was a joke. I didn't think you'd actually do it, he said, and it came out too fast, too honest. There it was. The truth under the smirk. I know, I said, softer now. You never thought I'd do anything that mattered. But I did. I built something real. Something profitable. Something that pays salaries. Grows teams. Supports families. He didn't have a response. So I let the silence stretch again. And then, finally, I asked, why now, Brian? Why apply at Corelight? He exhaled. Because I lost my job. I nodded. Knew it. I didn't want to tell anyone. Mom still thinks I'm transitioning to a better role. But it's been 5 months. No bites. And when I saw Corelight hiring, I didn't know it was yours. But when I found out, he looked up at me. I figured, maybe we could start over. There it was. The attempt. Not quite an apology. Not quite a lie. But something in between. A truce wrapped in self-preservation. I'm not mad you applied, I said. Honestly, I didn't even plan to say no. I told the team to treat your application like any other. He raised an eyebrow. But now you're here, I said. And I think you should hear something important. I pulled out my phone and tapped open a folder labeled Brunch. Inside was a single audio file, the voice memo I'd recorded the morning after our infamous brunch, when I was walking along the river, pouring out everything I wished I'd said at that table. I hit play. His voice crackled through the speaker. Maybe we should pass a hat around. Help Mikey pay for his eggs. Laughter. Long pause. He's still playing with that little tech thing of his? The clip ended. Brian shifted in his chair. You recorded that? No, I said. I recorded me reacting to it. That clip was pulled from a security recording. I requested it from the cafe after I left. He looked stunned. I kept it, I said, because I wanted to remember how small I felt. How invisible you made me. And I wanted to make sure I never let anyone, not even you, make me feel that way again. He didn't speak. His shoulders were tight. His jaw clenched. And in that moment, I saw something in his eyes I'd never seen before. Not guilt. Not regret. Fear. Fear of being seen. Fear of being powerless. Fear of being exposed, not just as a jerk, but as someone who couldn't hide behind charm anymore. You want to work for Corelight? I asked. He nodded. Then apply the right way. No name drops. No shortcuts. And no expectations. He swallowed. I'm not giving you a title because we share blood, I said. I don't care about last names. I care about value. Show me yours. He nodded again, this time slower. I can do that. Good. I stood up, grabbed my coat. He stayed seated. And just as I turned to leave, he said, quietly, I didn't think you needed to be seen. I stopped, then looked back. I didn't either. Until I realized no one ever did. It didn't take long for the rest of the family to hear about the coffee shop meeting. I didn't tell them. But Brian must have said something, or at least said enough, because 3 days later, I got a call from my mother. I let it go to voicemail. Her voice was sweet, deliberate. Michael, honey. I heard you and Brian finally talked. I think that's wonderful. Maybe this is the start of something better for both of you. Give me a call when you can, okay? I didn't call her back. Not yet. Because I knew what was coming. The next evening, she tried again. This time, she left no room for guessing. Michael, I just got off the phone with your brother. He's a mess. He said you made him feel like a complete failure. I understand you've got your business now and all, but there's no need to make this worse than it is. He's trying. Please don't hold this over him. There it was. The pivot from "you should talk" to "don't make things worse." It always amazed me how quickly my mother could reframe a narrative. Growing up, she was a master of keeping the peace, by any means necessary. Even if that meant pretending certain things didn't happen. Even if that meant making the more sensitive child feel like the problem. Even if that meant minimizing every slight so long as the golden child smiled. Brian's anger was excused as stress. His insults? Just teasing. His failures? Circumstantial. But me? I had to be the peacemaker. The one who knew better. The one who swallowed the conflict for the sake of family harmony. So I wasn't surprised when the third call came at this time, with tears. "Michael, please. He said you embarrassed him. That you played that clip from brunch and humiliated him. He's saying he doesn't even know how to face people now. You've always been the smart one. The level-headed one. Can't you just let this go? Let it go. Let it go. Let it go." I was so tired of those words. I finally called her back the next morning. She answered on the first ring. "Michael," she breathed. "Thank you for calling." "I didn't call to apologize," I said. She paused. "I didn't ask for an apology," she lied. I ignored that. "I just want to be very clear about something," I said. Brian showed up to my company's interview with zero preparation, then found out I ran the place. He's lucky I didn't end it right then. "You don't have to prove anything to me," she said quickly. "I know you've worked hard." "Do you?" I asked. Silence. Then, "I just want my boys to be close again." I let that hang in the air. Then said, "You want that? Then maybe you should have told Brian to stop making me the punchline every time we're in a room together." She didn't answer. Because she couldn't. Because she knew. "I'm not trying to embarrass him," I continued. "But I won't lie to make him comfortable. Not anymore. I just think," she said softly, "maybe if you reached out, if you included him, it would help." There it was. The ask. The expectation. "You're the successful one. So you should lift the other one." Never mind that the other one had stomped on my back to get higher in the first place. Never mind the years of belittling. The jokes. The eye rolls. Because in her eyes, I had won. And now it was my turn to make peace. I wanted to scream. Instead, I said, "Mom, have you ever once asked how I felt in that brunch? When everyone laughed at me like I was some charity case?" She was quiet. I was humiliated. By my own brother. In front of you. And no one said a word. Not even you. I didn't know what to say. You could have said stop. You could have said enough. You could have defended me. I didn't mean to hurt you. "I know," I said. "But you didn't try to protect me either." She started crying then. And for a moment, I softened, not because I was giving in, but because I understood. She was from a generation that believed family harmony was worth any sacrifice, even the truth. She wasn't malicious. Just scared. Scared of her sons drifting apart. Scared of things getting ugly. Scared of a crack in the perfect image she tried to hold on to. But I wasn't that scared little brother anymore. I had learned that silence protects the wrong people. And I wasn't going to be silent anymore. "Brian can apply to Corelight like anyone else," I said. "But he doesn't get a pass just because we share DNA." She didn't argue. She just said, "I hope you know how proud I am of you." And for the first time in a long time, I believed her. But I also knew that pride and pressure could live side by side. So I ended the call with a quiet, "Thanks," and nothing more. Later that night, I logged into our hiring system. Brian's application was still sitting there, updated, revised, with a new resume and a modest, almost humble cover letter. I marked it as hold, not out of cruelty, but because I needed more. More honesty, more effort, more growth. He wasn't getting in on charm this time. 3 weeks passed. No calls. No texts. No more teary voicemails from Mom or half-hearted attempts at reconciliation from Brian. Just silence. And it was the most peaceful silence I'd ever known. In that time, I focused on the business. We launched a new feature set for Corelight's logistics platform, signed 2 new regional clients in Indiana, and finally hired a dedicated customer success team, something I'd been meaning to do for months. The company was thriving. I was thriving. But in the back of my mind, I knew the file still sat there. Brian Grant. Application marked hold. Still pending. And after everything, the awkward interview, the coffee shop conversation, the fallout with Mom, I had a decision to make. Ignore it? Reject it? Or do something better? I called Jordan, my co-founder. "We're still looking for someone to help support the ops team, right?" I asked. "Yeah. We need someone sharp, organized, low ego. Someone who won't mind grinding out the back-end work most people avoid." I smiled a little. "I've got someone in mind." A week later, Brian received a formal offer from Corelight Systems. Not for business development. Not for sales leadership. Not for a fancy client-facing role. But for operations support specialist. Mid-level. Behind the scenes. No corner office. No commission-based bonuses. Just real, detailed work. Quiet work. The kind of job you take if you want to learn something. And the kind of job you earn, not one you're gifted. He took it. No argument. No counteroffer. No smug email or phone call. Just a quiet signature and a start date. And that surprised me. On his first day, he didn't come to my office. He went straight to HR, sat through onboarding like everyone else, read the documentation, set up his email, attended his first team sync. He was just another name in the system. And that felt good. The first week passed without incident. No awkward hallway moments. No family drama. No whispered gossip about how the CEO's brother had joined the team. Because no one else knew. And I wanted it that way. Not out of shame, but because this wasn't about punishing him. It was about rebuilding. And rebuilding starts at the ground level. On Friday, around 6 p.m., I got a knock at my door. I knew it was him before I even looked up. Brian stood there, slightly hunched, an ID badge clipped to his belt. He looked tired, but not performative. Just normal. Got a sec? He asked. I nodded. He stepped in, closed the door. I didn't come to talk about the job, he said quickly. I just wanted to say, thank you. I raised an eyebrow. I didn't expect you to hire me, he said. And I definitely didn't expect the role. But I get it. He looked down. I deserved worse. I leaned back in my chair. You deserve the chance to prove who you are without the shortcuts, I said. And so far, you're doing that. He nodded. I've been a jerk. For a long time. To you. To a lot of people. I don't know why it took this to see it, but I see it now. I studied his face. The words weren't slick, weren't rehearsed. They sounded earned. And for the first time in our lives, I saw my brother, not the mask he wore at parties or family gatherings. Not the golden boy act. Just a man trying to do better. I didn't say, I forgive you. I didn't say, we're good. But I did say, keep showing up. That's all I ask. And he nodded. Then he left. No? He's been with us 5 months. No complaints. No skip steps. No special treatment. Sometimes we cross paths in the break room. He nods. I nod back. There's no drama. Just quiet rebuilding. The kind that takes time. The kind that isn't owed, but earned. And every once in a while, when I hear him explaining Corelite's back-end systems to a new hire, or walking someone through a product flow he didn't understand 6 months ago, I smile. Because he's learning. Because I gave him the chance he never gave me. And because I didn't have to tear him down to rise above him. So here's what I'll leave you with. Sometimes, justice isn't loud. Sometimes it's quiet. Patient. Steady. It's handing someone the shovel and letting them do the work, one honest hour at a time. And as for me, I stopped waiting for applause. Stopped needing the validation of the people who used to ignore me. Because now I know who I am. And that's enough. So what about you? If you were in my shoes, would you have hired your brother? Would you have taken the high road? Or would you have walked away and let him figure it out on his own? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'm listening.